Hello, people, and thank you for joining this presentation. My name is Miguel Frontado, and I will talk to you about literature and virtual reality and how we can enhance the reading experience using this technology. There are three types of virtual realities. We have the non-immersive, which is a computer-generated environment that allows the user to stay aware of and keep control of their physical environment. The clearer example of this it's a video game or some 360 views YouTube videos we can find. We have the semi-immersive virtual reality, which is realism through 3D graphics. But in this case, these 3D graphics allow the user to have some control in a virtual environment. For example, flight simulators, replicated designs of real-world mechanisms like the one we have here in this example. So we can see that the user has a steering wheel and it's sitting in front of a device that mimics a real car, but there is some control of the physical environment, so the person is not fully immersive in this. Or here we have another example of a semi-immersive virtual reality type in which the user jumps and the avatar jumps, but the physical environment is not limited to the control of the user. And then we have the fully immersive virtual reality, which is a high resolution content with a wide field of view that can be 360 degrees or 180 degrees. And it's usually through these kind of devices, goggles. There are several types. There are some very accessible types of VR, and there are some that are not that accessible, but they're somehow available in the market. So in the fully immersive virtual reality, we hold these devices in our head, and we are not in control of the environment. That allows the user a better and close to real um, experience in the non-physical environment. In education, we can use virtual reality to explore realms considered impossible to reach due to our physical limitations. For example, if we want to travel um, to the moon, if we're gonna walk on the moon, that's not physically possible for everybody. However, we can use virtual reality to recreate an experience like that. We can visit landmarks or places all over the world. We can go to the Everest. We can go to the Statue of Liberty in New York, to Liberty Island, and we don't have to pay for a ticket. Virtual reality allows users to have that contact. We can understand culture and values. Um, Through these experiences, we can go to places in Africa and be in a setting in which people from that country would interact, and we would see what they do and hear what they say or what they or how they speak, how they communicate. So that's a close to real experience that students can use to understand cultural contexts and values from other places. We can also use VR to trigger students' curiosity. Students would or might not be into certain types of topics, but through virtual reality, we can expose those topics to them so they can get close to what it's real or something new. And through technology, we are allowed to show them how these new scenarios, new situations can be, and then we can trigger their curiosity. And I think that's the most important thing. We can create fun and interactive activities, assignments, and evaluations. We'll talk about that. But we're living in this technological world in which students are often open to technology, but they're not that open to literature or to assignments or to homework. So if we find a way to create activities, assignments, and evaluations, including this technology, students would be eager to participate in class and be part of this learning process we want them to be. As English teachers, we know that the reading process goes beyond recognizing single words or recognizing phrases, right? It's a whole decoding ability that it's put into practice, and also a contextual um, um, function of the language. So, in the word recognition process, we can combine interactive activities that allow the student play with orthography, phonology, the meaning of some words, and also contextualize the function of a language. Okay, so when we are reading short stories, poems, novels, or plays, of course, we are acquiring vocabulary and we're recognizing grammatical structures, but how to use that knowledge, it's the important thing, and it's the key to use literature in the learning process of a second language, in this case, English. So, considering that the reading process goes through these steps: predict, picture, relate, and monitor, linking a reading process with virtual reality will provide students with an immersive learning experience. Therefore, students would be able to picture and relate vocabulary with an environment that is described on a certain text or a book. Therefore, aligning literature to virtual environments will engage students in the reading process. They would be familiar with what they're reading in case some picturing um, is not clear for them. Here we have an example of uh, a Victorian London setting that could work um, to show our students how people in London lived in this time. And for example, a book like Oliver Twist can be linked with this video game, which is Assassin's Creed. Of course, it's we have to balance which kind of games. This is just an example, but let's see. In the book, we have a lot of scenes happening in the streets. We have Oliver Twist walking around, he works in the street, he talks to people in the street, everything happens in the street. So with a walkthrough like this, we can show our students how the real setting was. Okay, we can talk about the mood, the weather, how's the weather like, how people would dress. Okay, so we're showing them a little bit of how the setting was, and then they would recognize it when they read the text. That also helps predicting a lot. If we ask them to do a walkthrough before reading, that would help them predict it. Or it could be used back on the other side. They can read. Probably they won't have a clear picture, and then we can ask them to play a video game so they can have a clearer picture of of the reading. Here we have a Minecraft recreation of Wuthering Heights. This is this was made by some students. They recreated the castle and some of the scenarios, and they also created the characters. So students can play all together in the same scenario, or they can recreate a scenario, recreate the characters, and have them role playing, writing the dialogues to practice a target language or structure, or just to clarify how things happen in the reading. Here we have an example of how we can present students Hamlet, either for a before or a reading experience.
Thou comest in such a questionable shape that I will speak to thee.
Students will be able to navigate through this panel. This is Hamlet talking to his godfather.
Speak, I am bound to hear.
So art thou to revenge, but thou shalt hear.
What?
So as you see, students can actually walk around the scene and focus on whatever they want to focus on and listen to the text. So for before reading, it would be nice just to show, hey, this happens in this book, or for a during reading experience is like, okay, let's stop here, let's watch this 360 view, and then let's go back to the book and analyze what's going on there. So using the Bloom's taxonomy in the design of activities for the integration of literature and VR, we can actually use all the steps of the pyramid. But to remember, which is recalling basic facts and concepts, we just can show students something like a video. Okay, to understand, which implies explaining ideas or concepts, we can ask them to do an activity using Minecraft, for example, or playing a video game in which they have to follow some steps that would help them understand a contextual scenario. They can apply again with Minecraft, creating some scenarios and recreating some scenes, and they can analyze. And this is more for an after process, and probably de-evaluate and create the original work. It's kind of difficult. However, there are ways to use games like Minecraft or even um, games like Age of Empires would also help recreating um, the results of a change in history. Of course, this is not common and it's not proper if we want students to understand a book, but if we want them to practice the English language from a different perspective, recreating and changing the ending of a story, it's something very, uh, very useful. Here we have an example of a lesson plan in which students will use the skills of reading and listening for the purpose of orally reporting the parts of a house in and also the feelings of a narrator. For this example, we're going to use the Anne Frank's house VR experience. This is for a device um, that requires goggles, and of course, students will read the book. So here we
This
have
room in such an old canal house. The kitchen, in other words, and also the bedroom of Mr. and Mrs. Van Pels, the common living room, dining room, and study.
in this virtual reality experience. This is an application for goggles. Um, Students can listen and read excerpts of the novel of the book, and they can walk um, through the rooms in Anne Frank's house. So you can ask them to describe what they see. You can see that the environment is somber, and though the narration uh, of Anne Frank, it's not that somber. So you can ask them to analyze the context and the reading, and of course the vocabulary acquisition. It's amazing because they would see things, and you can ask them to describe specific objects in a set environment, and then the reading it's something they would enjoy.
This room in such an old canal house.
To conclude, we can say that integrating literature and VR applications help students contextualizing the information and also enjoy the reading process a little bit more. Sometimes we also will engage the reading process in those students who don't like reading. Lesson plans can be adapted to incorporate virtual reality. Um, Students would actually be sometimes more knowledgeable about what VR uh, technology can be aligned to a certain reading. So that's a feedback you can have in English, and students would practice language in a discussion. They would feel engaged. VR can be used in the classroom or at home. That means that students can do some homework, and you can assign homework just using this technology. And teachers can monitor activities to measure outcomes um, from students, meaning that you can ask them to recreate something and tell what they saw, and that would be a nice oral evaluation. Thank you very much for watching this presentation. Hope to see you in the channel I have opened to discuss more about VR and literature, and I hope you're enjoying the convention. Stay tuned.